past 11 p.m. at a quiet Alabama gas station, and Monica Jefferson, Alabama's top prosecutor, thinks she's just filling up her tank. But two cops roll up, ready to treat her like a suspect. They have no idea who she is, or the firestorm they're about to ignite. Buckle up for a story of power, prejudice, and justice that'll leave you questioning everything. You won't believe what happens next. They thought she was just another suspicious black woman. They had no clue she was the most powerful lawyer in the state. It was late, past 11 p.m., but Monica Jefferson wasn't in a rush. She'd spent all day in court, jumping from one case to another, her mind a constant battlefield of arguments, evidence, and closing statements. Now, all she wanted was to fill up her tank and get home. She pulled into a Chevron gas station in Birmingham, Alabama, letting out a slow breath as the pump beeped to life. The warm glow of the overhead lights cast long shadows across the pavement. The quiet hum of the night was broken only by the occasional car speeding down the highway. Monica grabbed the gas nozzle, her thoughts elsewhere. Maybe she'd pour a glass of wine when she got home. Maybe she'd finally finish that book sitting on her nightstand for days. She didn't notice the patrol car pulling in until she heard the door slam. Two cops, one older, broad-shouldered, with that air of authority that demanded obedience. The other, younger, antsy, looking to his partner for cues. Sergeant Greg Matheson and Officer Kyle Barker. She felt their eyes on her before she even turned. That look, the same one she'd seen time and again in courtrooms. "Ma'am," Matheson said, striding toward her with a firm step, "we're going to need to see some ID." Monica's fingers paused on the pump. She looked up, already knowing where this was headed. "Why?" she asked. "Routine check," he replied, his voice clipped, rehearsed. She studied them for a moment. No one else was at the gas station. No one else was being questioned. Just her. Monica exhaled slowly and pulled her wallet from her purse. "I'll show you my ID," she said, her voice steady. "But first, tell me why you stopped me." Barker stepped forward. "We got a report of a stolen black Lexus in the area. Yours matches the description." Monica almost laughed. That car had been hers for 4 years. The plates were in her name. The insurance was in her name. A stolen car? "Who reported it stolen?" she asked. Matheson narrowed his eyes. "Let's not make this harder than it needs to be." Monica didn't budge. She'd faced worse. Murder trials, federal corruption cases, criminals with everything to lose. But she knew arguing right then wouldn't help. She handed over her ID, keeping her face neutral as Matheson took it. Barker circled the car, running his hand along the hood like he was hunting for evidence. "Step away from the vehicle," Matheson ordered. Monica's patience was thinning. "You've got my ID. Check it. You'll see this car's mine." Barker stopped at the driver's door, peering through the window. "That's a work bag," he said. Monica followed his gaze. A leather briefcase, the same one she took to court every day, sat on the passenger seat. "Open the trunk," Matheson said. Monica raised an eyebrow. Barker edged closer. "Excuse me," she said calmly. "You don't have probable cause. My ID's valid and this car's legally mine. You've got no right to search it." A flash of irritation crossed Matheson's face. He turned to Barker. "Call it in." This was where things got dicey. Monica had seen it too many times, how fast a stop like this could spiral. She heard Barker's voice on the radio, calling dispatch. Her heart pounded. Not from fear, but from a growing frustration. She'd built her career fighting this, holding cops like them accountable, and now, here she was. Matheson crossed his arms, staring at her like she was a problem to be solved. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to step away from the car." Monica didn't move, but she knew this wasn't over. "And if I refuse?" Matheson's expression hardened. "Then we do this the hard way." Monica felt the shift in the air. The moment Matheson squared his shoulders, his stance got stiffer, more aggressive. She'd spent enough time in courtrooms analyzing cop body language to know what was coming. "Ma'am, I'm not asking again," Matheson said, his voice tight. "Step away from the vehicle." Monica's pulse stayed steady. She'd argued against guys like him in court, torn apart their excuses word by word. But here, in this dimly lit gas station, there was no judge, no jury, just unchecked power. Barker's hand hovered near his belt. Tension crackled between them. Monica could hear her own heartbeat, steady and deliberate, as she weighed her next move. "Sergeant," she said, her voice calm, measured, "you know this is illegal. Matheson let out a sharp breath through his nose. "You're defying a lawful order." "There's nothing lawful about it," Monica shot back. She should have known that wouldn't matter. Barker moved first. His hand shot out, grabbing her wrist with a grip that made it clear this wasn't about a routine stop anymore. It was about control. Before she could react, Matheson grabbed her other arm, twisting both behind her back. "Are you serious?" Monica snapped, twisting slightly. "Stop resisting!" Barker yelled. She wasn't, but they needed it to look that way. Cold steel snapped around her wrists. The click of the handcuffs echoed in the silence. "You've got no right." "You're under arrest for failure to comply," Matheson cut in. Monica clenched her jaw. This was textbook. Rattle the suspect, escalate the situation, justify the force. It was also predictable. They spun her around, pushing her against the side of the car. The rough texture of Barker's glove pressed into her shoulder. "Got anything I should know about?" Barker asked, patting down her pockets with deliberate slowness. Monica stared straight ahead. "Check the bag," Matheson ordered. Barker grabbed it from the hood and yanked it open. Wallet, keys, court badge. His movements slowed. "Sergeant." Matheson looked over. Barker pulled out a leather case and flipped it open. Monica's official ID stared back at them. Alabama State Prosecutor, Chief District Attorney. For a moment silence, then Matheson snatched it from his hands, scanning it fast, the gold state seal glinting under the fluorescent lights. His face lost color. "You're making a big mistake," Monica said, her voice calm but sharp. Matheson blinked, processing. Barker shifted uncomfortably. "Sergeant, what do we do?" Matheson hesitated. The weight of what they'd just done was hitting him in real time. They'd just arrested the woman leading the investigation into racial profiling in their own department, and now they were stuck. "Take the cuffs off," he muttered. Barker didn't move. "I said, take the damn cuffs off." Barker fumbled, the metal scraping as he unlocked them. Monica rubbed her wrists, watching them closely. "Look," Matheson started, forcing a tight smile. "This was a misunderstanding." Monica wasn't smiling. She took back her ID slowly and slipped it into her jacket pocket. "Yeah," she said. Her eyes locked on him. "It was, but misunderstandings don't come with handcuffs. And this isn't over." Monica stood still, her wrists sore from the cuffs, the weight of the moment crushing the two men in front of her. Matheson looked like a guy who'd just walked off a cliff without realizing it. Barker, younger and less seasoned, kept shifting, his fingers twitching at his sides. "This doesn't have to go anywhere," Matheson said, his voice trying to sound in control. "Let's move on." Monica let the words hang. Move on. She'd spent her career fighting for people who never got to move on, people dragged from their cars, slammed onto pavement, humiliated in front of their families, all because cops saw them as problems, not people. She inhaled slowly, deeply. "You stopped me without cause, cuffed me, searched me illegally, and now you want to walk away like it's nothing." Matheson swallowed hard. "We didn't know who you were." Monica's eyes narrowed. "And if I wasn't the chief DA, would we be having this talk? Or would I be in the back of your cruiser right now?" Neither answered. Barker finally looked up, his face uncertain. "Look, we were just doing our job." Monica let out a scoff. "That tired, flimsy excuse." She stepped forward, lowering her voice just enough to make them lean in. "You think this ends here? You think because you took the cuffs off it all goes away?" She tilted her head. "Tell me, how long you been on the force?" Barker hesitated. 5 years. Monica turned to Matheson. "And you?" He clenched his jaw. 18 years, he repeated. "Long enough to know better," she said. Matheson exhaled through his nose, hands on his hips like he was bracing for a hit. "What do you want from us?" Monica studied him. "I want you to remember this moment, because the next time you stop someone who looks like me, but doesn't have this," she held up her badge, letting its weight sink in, "they won't have the same power to fight back." She let the silence stretch. Barker shifted again, uneasy, his eyes flicking between her and his partner. Finally Matheson spoke. "Look, we screwed up. I get it." Monica shook her head. "No, you don't get it, but you will." Matheson opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, Barker's radio crackled, cutting through the silence. "Unit 27, status check on that traffic stop," the dispatcher replied. "Someone else knew about this encounter?" Barker hesitated, looking to Matheson for a signal. Matheson let out a heavy breath. "Tell him it's all clear." Barker paused just a second too long. Guilt weighs heavy. but finally pressed the button. Unit 27, all clear. Monica nodded. Good. Now, I suggest you go home and think real hard about what just happened. She turned to her car, reaching for the door handle. But then, like something clicked, a slow realization spread across Matheson's face. What department did you say you were with? He asked, cautious. Monica smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I didn't. She slid into her seat, closed the door, and started the engine. As she pulled away, she didn't need to check the rear view to know they were still standing there. Their world had just gotten a whole lot smaller than it was 10 minutes ago, because they'd wrongfully arrested the woman leading the investigation against their department. And, come morning, they'd wake up to a nightmare they couldn't escape. The next morning, Monica sat at her desk, staring at a stack of case files. The irony wasn't lost on her. For months she'd been reviewing complaints against Birmingham PD officers, each one detailing patterns of racial profiling, excessive force, illegal stops, each one filled with names of people humiliated, arrested, or worse, all because of cops' mistakes. And now her own name belonged in one of those files. A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. Her assistant, Clara Rodriguez, poked her head in. They're here, Monica exhaled. Send 'em in. The door swung wider and Police Chief Walter Grayson walked in, his face tight, unreadable. Behind him, Internal Affairs Investigator Samuel Owens carried a manila folder under his arm. They didn't waste time with small talk. Grayson cleared his throat. I saw the video. Monica's fingers tapped the edge of her desk. The gas station cameras had caught it all. I'm guessing you also saw the part where they cuffed me, she said coolly. Grayson's lips pressed into a thin line. I'm not going to defend them. What happened last night was unacceptable. Monica tilted her head. Then you know what's coming next. Owens set the folder on her desk and opened it. Inside were disciplinary reports, Matheson's and Barker's names stamped across multiple complaints. Monica glanced at them. How many? Grayson hesitated. Owens answered instead. 14 against Matheson, 9 against Barker, mostly for racial bias. Monica let that sink in. And they were still out patrolling the streets. She leaned back in her chair. You know, when I started digging into this department, I had a theory, she said, clasping her hands. I figured the problem was systemic, that leadership just looked the other way. She paused. But last night I realized something else. Grayson's eyes flickered. What's that? She held his gaze. The problem isn't just the system, it's that cops like Matheson and Barker think they're untouchable. Grayson shifted, uneasy. I'm putting them both on administrative leave. That's not enough, Monica cut in. Owens watched her closely. What do you want? She leaned forward, voice firm. I want them fired. Grayson stiffened. Monica, you know how hard it is to fire a cop with union protections, even with the video. The appeal process can drag on for months. Then let's make sure they don't appeal. Grayson exhaled heavily, running a hand over his face. You're asking me to throw them to the wolves. Monica's expression didn't budge. I'm not asking you to throw them anywhere. I'm asking you to hold them accountable for once. Owens shifted in his seat. If we charge them, it's going to hit the department hard. We're already under a microscope. Monica let out a short laugh. You're worried about the department's image? I was humiliated, cuffed, and illegally detained by 2 cops with a history of misconduct. If you think I'm letting this slide, you don't know me at all. A long silence filled the room. Grayson exhaled. What charges are you recommending? Monica didn't hesitate. Illegal detention, misconduct, and abuse of power. Grayson's shoulders slumped. He knew there was no way out. All right, he nodded. Owens said, I'll get the paperwork ready. Monica stood. And one more thing. Both looked at her. I want a press conference. Grayson frowned. You sure about that? Monica's eyes darkened. I'm done handling things quietly. It's time the public knows exactly who's protecting them. Because if Matheson and Barker could do this to her, a woman with power and influence, what hadn't they done to people without a voice? This wasn't just about justice. It was about making sure it never happened again. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the back wall, cameras clicking every few seconds. The benches were crammed, community members, activists, other cops watching the trial in silence. At the defendant's table, Sergeant Greg Matheson and Officer Kyle Barker sat in stiff suits, no badges, their futures on the line. Barker stared down, hands clasped so tight his knuckles were white. Matheson, jaw clenched, looked straight ahead, his face carefully blank. Monica walked in, the sound of her heels echoing on the polished floor. She'd prosecuted criminals, corrupt officials, even cops before, but this was different. This time she was both the prosecutor and the victim. She took her seat and set down her notes. Today wasn't just about those two men. It was about a system that had let them act without consequences. The judge entered, called for order, and the proceedings began. The prosecutor, Monica's colleague, Assistant DA Leonard Briggs, stood. Your Honor, the people will prove that the defendants, Sergeant Greg Matheson and Officer Kyle Barker, conducted an illegal detention, violated the victim's rights, and abused their authority under the guise of the law. Matheson's lawyer, Victor Langley, rose next, his voice smooth, practiced. Your Honor, my clients acted within the scope of their duties. This was a misunderstanding, not intentional misconduct. A misunderstanding. Monica kept her face neutral. A misunderstanding doesn't come with handcuffs. Briggs called the first witness, the gas station manager. I was inside, watching the cameras, the man testified. She was just pumping gas, then those two showed up and you could tell right away. They weren't there to help. Briggs played the surveillance video. Every second of the wrongful stop flashed on the screen. Matheson demanding ID, Barker circling the car, Monica being grabbed, pinned, cuffed. Then the moment their faces changed when they saw her badge. Briggs let the video run a few seconds longer, letting the weight of it settle in the room. Did these officers seem to have any reason to arrest her? He asked. No, sir, the manager replied. They just did it because they felt like it. Matheson shifted in his seat. Barker kept his head down. Next, Barker was called to the stand. He hesitated, glanced at Matheson, then stood and walked to the witness box. Briggs leaned in. Officer Barker, let's talk about that night. When you approached Miss Jefferson, what did you suspect her of? Barker swallowed. There was a report of a stolen vehicle matching the description. Briggs raised an eyebrow. Did you verify the report before approaching her? Barker faltered. No, not then. So you had no real reason to suspect her, Barker squirmed. We just wanted to be sure. Briggs turned to the jury. Wanted to be sure. That's the justification. No probable cause, no evidence, just a hunch. Just a hunch. He looked back at Barker. When did you realize you detained the state's chief DA? Barker's face reddened. After we checked her ID? You still cuffed her. A long pause. Yes, he mumbled. Matheson's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. When it was Monica's turn to testify, she spoke clearly, firmly. I've dedicated my career to making sure people are treated fairly under the law, she told the court. These officers treated me as a criminal first and a citizen second. The only reason I'm here today instead of in a cell is because of my title. That should terrify everyone in this room. Her words hung in the air. Matheson's face was stone. But Barker looked smaller, like a man realizing too late he'd tanked his own life. Briggs addressed the jury. The law is clear. These men abused their power. Now it's time to hold them accountable. And for the first time in their careers, Matheson and Barker weren't the ones calling the shots. The verdict came faster than expected. Monica sat still as the jury foreperson stood and cleared their throat. We, the jury, find the defendants guilty on all charges. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Reporters scribbled furiously. Matheson's shoulders tensed, his mask of indifference cracking. Barker let out a shaky breath, staring at the table like he wanted to vanish. The judge's gavel hit the wood. Sentencing will be scheduled at a later date. This court is adjourned. As the judge left, the room erupted. Cameras flashed, reporters surged forward, their voices blending. Miss Jefferson, do you think justice was served? Will this case set a precedent? What would you say to those defending these officers? Monica faced the press head-on, stepping to the microphones with the same composure she'd held since the moment she was cuffed. Let me make one thing clear, she said, her voice steady and calm. This was never about revenge. It was about accountability. She scanned the sea of cameras. This case matters because it proves something we already knew. When the system works, bad cops don't walk away clean. But it shouldn't take a courtroom, a media frenzy, or the right job title for someone to get justice. Her words landed heavy on the crowd. Sergeant Matheson and Officer Barker thought they could act without consequences. That belief ends today. Her gaze swept the cameras one last time. And if there are others out there wearing a badge and thinking the same way, let this be a warning. With that, she stepped back, ignoring the next wave of questions. Justice had been done, but her work wasn't over. Matheson and Barker were officially stripped of their badges. Barker, for his lesser role, got probation and community service. Matheson, with his long history of misconduct, was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. For the first time, he'd be on the other side of the law. And yet, the victory felt hollow. A week later, Monica sat in her office staring out the window as the city moved on. For every case like this, how many go unheard? How many people are stopped, searched, arrested, humiliated, and never get a chance to fight back? She reached for the file on her desk, a new case, another complaint, another name on the list. She exhaled and opened it. Because justice isn't a single moment, it's a fight, and she wasn't done fighting. The story of Monica Jefferson isn't just a courtroom drama or a viral moment. It's a mirror held up to society, reflecting a truth we can't ignore. Justice shouldn't depend on who you are, what title you hold, or how loud your voice can be. The profound lesson here is that systems left unchecked breed inequality, and those with power, like Monica, can expose it. But only if they choose to fight. Her courage shows us that change doesn't come from staying silent or accepting misunderstandings. It comes from demanding accountability, no matter the odds, and standing up for those who don't have a badge or a platform to defend themselves. In our own lives, this means recognizing the small moments where we can challenge unfairness, whether it's calling out bias at work, supporting someone who's been wronged, or simply refusing to look away when something feels off. It's about understanding that every voice matters and every action counts, because real change starts when we stop waiting for someone else to fix the problem. Monica's fight reminds us that we all have a role in building a world where no one's worth is measured by their status or skin. Thank you for watching and diving into this story with us. It's because of you that these conversations keep going. If this hit home, drop a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and spread the word to keep the fight for justice alive. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories that challenge, inspire, and demand truth. Let's keep pushing forward together.